This is your host, Pramod Solanki. Hope you all can hear me loud and clear. Sorry. We also have our guest, Mr. Sunder Raman, who we will be talking to today. But for many of you who have joined for the first time, this is the 13th session of Leadership Conversations. And, in this series, we bring along leaders who have distinguished themselves in their journey, and we try and distill the essence of how did they go about, how did they build themselves up as a leader, and how did they go about delivering the exceptional contribution and the impact that they made. So with that brief for today, we have Mr. Sunder Raman, former chairman and managing director of Canara Bank, and also formerly the whole-time member of SEBI, the Security and Exchange Board of India. So on behalf of each one of you, and of course on my own behalf, a very warm welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Solanki, for inviting me. Privilege. Yeah.
Thank you. So even though in this 1 hour conversation, we will get to have a peep into life of Mr. Sunder Raman, if I may say, and his leadership journey. But you would agree that a career that spans 55 plus years and counting is not easy to kind of do justice with. And therefore, before I begin, I want to say this to everyone. Here is, if you are able to see, I think the picture is not, I don't know why the picture is not carrying. This is a book, pretty much the same title that I have, written in my message as well. From a car shade to the corner room and beyond. One of the sought after books by people. So while in today's conversation, most of you will get some sense of Mr. Sunder Raman. But like I said, 55 plus years and counting is not easy to cover. And therefore, those of you who have greater interest in getting to know about him and more, I strongly recommend that you take a look at the book and see how did he build himself up. So in a nutshell, to introduce, of course, many of these things will be talked about as we go along. But, his early childhood, about 6 years, quite literally, he lived in a car shade. And, many of us would hide it, but he wears it like a badge of honor. His book itself draws its title from there. At the age of 19, he took up his job with State Bank of India as a clerk immediately after his matriculation. And but I guess he was destined for bigger things. So he completed his graduation, took the officer's examination. Let me suggest that any one of you who wants to open the video, feel free. That option I have kept open. You can open your video. It's just that the audio we have kind of controlled so that the noise doesn't come. You'll be able to watch the conversation. So he was, he joined Bank of India as an officer. And pretty much every significant role and with a great speed, from manning a bank counter to in the SBI to officer in Bank of India, branch manager, regional manager, general manager, HR head, and then deputed to US and UK. In US, he was the CEO of the US operation of the bank. And then when he came back, then he was appointed as executive director of another large bank, Union Bank of India, and then finally to Canara Bank as a chairman and managing director. So that has been his career trajectory. Um, After he completed his tenure as CMD of Canara Bank, he was appointed by the Government of India as a whole-time member of SEBI. And that's where he once again, the country got to see his courage of convictions and standing up for what is right, original thinking, boldness, all of that you got to see in that role there. Uh, he had his share of unfortunate challenges post his retirement. Some of those, briefly we'll talk about as a part of the session. So that in very brief is the introduction, if I may say, of Mr. Sunder Raman. So, sir, the very first question I have is, like I mentioned in the introduction, that now, of course, you have your accomplishments. You can rub shoulders with high and mighty. Uh, but at an early age, and in the school and college, the kind of humble beginnings that you talk about, and I've had the benefit of earlier conversations with you. Where did this confidence come from that I'm no less and I can also achieve and do anything that I want to achieve? Give us some sense of where did this self-assurance come from?
Thank you very much. A great question to start off the conversation. My father was a different type of man. He was a man of extreme, a lot of courage and conviction. Very simple man, non-materialistic. It didn't bother him whether he had money or not, but he was a man of great principles. He taught us a lot of values. That was his greatest contribution to our lives. Number one, he always said, Raman, always speak the truth, never lie. So I have rarely lied in my life. And as a result, I have benefited immensely because what I say, people take it as correct. There is hardly any fact checking with me in my entire 46 years of professional life and even personal life. So speak the truth, number one. And second principle he had was be grateful to people who help you. The smallest deed somebody does for you, you have to remember lifetime.
So,
And not only remember lifetime, more importantly, you have to proclaim to the world so that the world knows that you are indebted to such people. And so many people have helped you in your life. And in fact, this is reflected in the book where I have mentioned almost 200, 300 names I have mentioned of people who made it possible for good things to happen in my career as it went on. So this book is as much a book of Thanksgiving as much as it is my own experiences which I am sharing with others. And finally, of course, although we were living in a car shed, he had no qualms about it, and he usually used to tell his friends, "Come to my palace." And he was
come
not.
to my palace.
I was not a hypocrite, and he genuinely meant so, and people could see that that is genuineness about him. So, and हम किसी से कम नहीं. So that virtually was some and substance of what he taught us. Wherever you are, whatever background, and he always used to also tell me, Raman, never forget your roots. And in fact, in one of my days of fancy in my younger days, I had dreamt of writing, if I had dreamt of writing some book, and I thought to myself, if I ever write a book, then the title will be, the car shed will be mentioned in that. In fact, it has got very deep roots, the title, where it starts. And of course, so far as the title is concerned, car shed to the corner room, of course, and beyond. Life is much beyond this small journey of where you start off and where you end your professional career. Life is much, much more than that. And that is the reason why, I mean, that's what is signified by the word. So this is what gave me the confidence, and a concrete example is I was a squadron officer, and I was participating in a discussion with the chairman, an open conference, about 40, 50 people attending. I'm the junior most officer in the entire group of 50 or 60. And I have the guts to have a different point of view with the chairman. And the chairman is a great man, Ian Wagul by name. Hats off to him. He is the first genuine hero I met in my life. And
Okay.
such a man of great magnanimity, and he never interrupted me once. And not only that, after the conference, he writes a summary and shows it to me. Raman, I hope this has your assent. So that was the type of man. I had never seen a man of such generosity in my life, either before or after. He is one of my greatest heroes in life. And so this is what gave me the confidence.
So,
And I met any number of great people, and much higher in hierarchy, much higher in stature. But,
sure, sure,
conversation level, I was always an equal. In protocol, of course,
sure,
show a lot of respect, which is due
sure.
as per protocol requirements. But beyond the protocol requirements, whenever there is a discussion, a conversation, I was always an equal. Whether it is an
Wonderful.
arbiter or
Yes.
whether it's the finance minister, whether people like Greenspan or Bemdanake and Mike Carney and others. So
Right.
whoever it is on the other side, conversation-wise, I'm an equal. So that is what. And you had a
Sure,
question
sure,
about
sure.
how does it compare with the modern days? Modern days, of course, the pressures are more, I feel.
Hmm.
In our days, of course, this was what I'm talking of in the 50s.
Hmm.
And then at the point of time, not much of peer comparison and all that. Now, of course, with the social media coming and
Yes.
all the TV and all that, I think people could be a bit more tougher for poor children.
It
But
may be.
that is not to say that there are no examples even now. You look at Vaibhav Suryavanshi, comes from Samastipur. He
Sure, sure.
made things which hardly anyone else has done.
Sure, sure,
So,
sure. But even to be fair to you, even that time, social media comparisons may not have been there, but comparisons were there. And therefore, I think the reassurance that came from your father, from the role models like Mr. Wagol, that you can speak your mind, I think all of those gave that strength, and that obviously has helped. Thanks very much for sharing this. So the second question that I want to go to is, um, not many officers reach CMD's role in the banks, and you pretty much distinguished yourself in every role that you have taken. The branch that you headed got adjudged as the best branch. In the zone that you handled, you did many remarkable things. I've had the benefit of conversation with you. In the US operations, you did your part. Tell us, when you look at your journey, what is it that helped you getting spotted that here is a person we should move because this person does something remarkable in a role that he takes. Reflect about this and help us understand what are some of the things that have helped in this accelerated growth in your career.
my mother had one great lesson for all of us. She used to mention in Tamil, "Shevana Tirundache." That means do whatever you do it well. That was her credo. And that she drilled in our mind very deep and hard. So till date, whatever I try to do, I do it. I try to do it as well as I can. And most of the time, it attracts many times admiration, many times, So there's a highly satisfying thing for me. So, as a few examples I'll give you, right from my school days, my school notes were much in demand by all my co-students. And when I joined State Bank of India as a clerk, I have written in the book about that experience, great experience. I was in the ECL sub-office of Hyderabad, where we had one account of ECL in one big, huge ledger. And that ledger was being maintained by me. And if
Mhm.
I go, and that ledger is being maintained so well that if I go on leave for 3, 4 days, nobody will touch it. All the
Mhm.
details will be kept aside. Of course, they will account for it on a daily basis. That's fine. But after accounting for it, so far as the ledger posting is concerned, they will keep it aside. And then when I come back, Raman, we don't want to spoil the looks of the ledger. We have maintained it so well. So that type of respect,
Mm.
as a clerk, I commanded huge respect from my officers and others. When I was manager of Pimpri, it was voted as India's #1 branch. When I was in New York, it was India's best overseas center. Wherever I was as zonal manager, whether in Odisha or Ahmedabad, the zones make great strides, thanks to all the contributions which I have listed in the book. And as GA personnel also, well, my credo was be fair and have empathy and apply rules uniformly. So that was my credo all through my life, which I have written in the book in
Yes.
detail, which enabled me to stand firm. And so, whatever job is not very relevant. What is relevant is what is the spirit you have. So my
Mm.
spirit was any job was given, I would do it in a manner that, well, it sets the standard. I mean, I was in several unglamorous positions also. I was in charge of reconciliation of no-show accounts, which is not considered very glamorous. But
Right.
that is such a phenomenal job that people still remember many decades afterwards. So
So,
that is the credo. Whatever you do it
mm.
well. Whatever role it is, doesn't matter. Glamorous, unglamorous, difficult, outside your home turf, whatever.
That's right. Whatever you do the very best that you can. I think
Yeah.
that's a very powerful message there. So now let me take to one of the very significant leadership role. There are other questions we'll come back to, but most of us got to know about this global meltdown of 2008, downturn of 2008, only after it hit us. But you were in US that time as a CEO of Bank of India US operations. And by virtue of the opportunity to interact with the Fed chiefs and various financial, the landscape there, give us some sense of how it was building up, why nobody could get a sense that it is going to get so bad that the whole world will get impacted, and suddenly it came and hit. So give us some sense of that time.
I was lucky in a way that I was direct witness to the build-up of the financial crisis
Mhm.
and also witnessed the aftermath of the crisis from India when I was a member of the finance minister's team to go around the world to attract foreign investments, etc. So it was a great chance. It happened like that. I joined New York in 2005, just
Mhm.
giving you a sense of what it is. In 2005, we have a system in New York where they call the foreign bank chiefs.
Hmm.
Fed chief calls all the banks, foreign banks chiefs under the auspices of one organization called the International Bankers Association.
Mhm.
And that as a particular forum provides an opportunity for, and I was although a very small bank, Lilliputian bank,
Mhm.
in terms of the global standards, especially those days. Now, of course,
So,
Indian banks are growing in size. But at that point in time, well, we were actually a very tiny bank, but I was still a foreign bank and I was a chief executive. So that was my stature. So because of my being chief executive, I used to be called. And as is my nature, I would like to participate in whatever discussion which takes place. And I asked a question to Mr. Greenspan, who was the chief of the Fed that time, an outstanding man who was chairman of Fed for 17 long years. He had such an aura around Greenspan, great man. Then I asked him, this meeting was somewhere in October 2005. Why don't you think? What do you think about the ballooning when hot prices in the property market? What is your assessment of this? He was very sure that actually the prices were hot, market was hot because there was actual demand, especially
mm,
from overseas Chinese who were pouring money into the properties on the West Coast and the East Coast. So that was his 100% belief. That is what he believed in. And because he believed in that, then the Fed generally, overall, they did not think there was any crisis building up.
mm,
So that was the number one, I would say. The crisis was building up, but nobody admitted there was a crisis. because the signs were not there.
Mm.
But by the time the next he was replaced by Ben Bernanke somewhere in March
Mm.
2006, and I had a similar opportunity once again of going for that meeting in October 2006. By that time, what had happened was the interbank spreads had increased, and the banks which were perceived to be heavy investors in mortgage-based securities under the subprime loans, they were all under pressure. The so when the interbank market was getting under pressure, there was one question I put to Mr. Bernanke. What do you think of this property thing? And what do you think of why these spreads are actually widening and then why the market is so difficult now? Ben Bernanke is a Nobel Prize winner subsequently, and he had a clear assessment of the magnitude of the crisis. He
Mm.
said, this is going to take months to play out. It's not something which somebody can fix, like what happened in 1986 when there was a Plaza Accord, when all the central bank chiefs and the finance ministers of the rich top five, G5, G6 countries came and then they fixed up a problem. This is not like that. It's going to take several months to play out. I will now give you what exactly is the problem. The entire genesis of the problem is subprime lending, which we would have heard. What is subprime lending? Subprime lending is lending to borrowers in terms of housing loans, where the credibility or the creditworthiness of the borrowers is not that strong enough to be able to service the loan. But
That's
still,
right.
the banks are lending. Why? Number one, the property values are increasing. So even if I lend today, the property values, if they increase, as a lender, I have the comfort that the security value has increased. So the equity is there higher. That's number one, comfort. Number two, second comfort was there was huge demand for such loans because it was on paper secured. It was all mortgage-backed securities. It was not mere paper securities. It was mortgage-based. So all these loans were supposed to be fully collateralized, and all these loans were bundled together, and they were being rated by the credit rating agencies as AAA, etc., etc. So
Mm.
once a bundle of the assets in the form of housing loans was rated as AAA, there was huge demand all across the world. So many banks internationally, all over the world, actually, they were investing in these papers, in mortgage-backed securities. So Greenspan thought at the time when he was replying to that question, you see, where is the risk? Risk is now spread all over the world. It is
Mm.
not concentrated in the USA or in any single market. But
Right.
what he did not realize then, and what actually happened was, it was not the risk which was dispersed. It was
Mm.
contamination which got spread all over the world. And
Correct.
what till then, till that point in time, any property crisis was always a localized crisis. It will not balloon to a global one. So this
Mm.
one blew into a global crisis. But what is the real genesis? Why were the banks actually lending this? Because, and why were the borrowers borrowing so adventurously? The reason was that if I borrow for a housing loan and I'm not in a position to pay, the bank can only sell the house and get whatever money they can get, and that is the end of it. I was not personally liable for any shortfall between the security and the amount realized. So that
Mm.
was a very funny rule in the USA.
Mm. Mm.
So this is for this reason and this reason alone that the crisis was confined to the USA. It was not there in Canada. It was not there in Mexico, two sides of the border. But as a student of the subject, it was puzzling me. Why is it that this peculiar rule has come about in the USA? Why is it not there in Canada? Canada, everyone was liable for the full amount of the loan. Same Mexico's like in India. In India, if you borrow something, we are liable for the entire amount of the loan. If there is
Mm.
security for the shortfall of the value, we are liable.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
here in the USA, it was not. Then I did some amount of deep thinking and finally got an answer a bit later, not during my days in New York. But the reason is that there was a law, there was a Great Depression in the USA in the late 1920s, 29, 31, some 2, 3 years. There was a Great Depression in the USA. And they were thinking of how to fix the problem. The easiest solution, which in all these cases is encourage house building activity. It generates
Mm.
employment. So
Right.
people are told, come on, buy houses, construct houses.
Right.
But then the people were saying, okay, you're telling me to buy a house, all right, but if I lose a job tomorrow, I'm not in a position to pay, then you will
Mm.
declare me bankrupt and I'll be
Mm.
gone for life.
Yes.
Then the reaction of the parliamentarians there, US Congress and the president there was that, well, because there's an extraordinary situation, depression, house building has to be encouraged, employment has to be generated to break the cycle of depression. They said, no, we will hold you liable only to the extent of the value of the house.
Mm.
You will not be made liable for that shortfall, if any, which will make you bankrupt. So that was a huge amount of comfort to the people at
Mm.
that point in time. And
Right.
people borrowed a lot of money, construction boomed, and depression actually was conquered. So far, so good. But when the depression was over, then this particular law, which was brought to tackle that particular situation,
Mm.
that should have had a sunset clause, or it should have been said, okay, we have conquered the problem. This particular rule is no longer now valid. Now
Right.
we will be liable for all the borrowings which are due, and not limited to the value of the property. That they never did because it was politically not expedient. And
Mm.
even till today,
Mm.
2026, as I am talking to you, the same is the rule in the USA.
I
So we
see.
can never rule out a subprime crisis in the USA anytime.
Mm.
So if this is the rule, so I have written in great detail in the book as
Mm.
what is the genesis. This is the genesis of this subprime lending, and why subprime lending happens is this, and why there was adventurous borrowing that also happened because of that. So your second part of the question is what did Bank of India do? The fashion was at that point in time, many banks were investing in mortgage-backed securities because the return was
Mm.
also good. They were on paper AAA rated. So what else do you want as a banker? AAA rated and with decent
Mm.
return, fine, good. So somehow we are not comfortable because I had a big reservation of that about the property prices in general and also about the widening of spreads in the debt market. So we did not venture into that. And then, of course, when we retained the strongest possible regulatory rating, there is something called ROCA rating, which is
Mm.
given to foreign branches of foreign banks in the USA, ROCA. And we got the strongest rating all the 3, 4 years when all this crisis was building up. And when time came for me to return to India, I took my successor to the US Fed, head of the supervision there in New York, and I introduced him. And then he was fabulously happy, this supervisor. He said, Mr.
Mm.
Raman, it's amazing that you retained the ROCA rating strong.
Mm.
Hardly anybody has been able to do it. Can you tell me the secret sort of thing? How did you manage that? I'm
Mm.
interested in knowing. I said, sir, there are three things. One was God was kind to me. Number one. Number two, we did not venture into things which we did not understand.
Mm.
We did not buy mortgage-based securities for that reason. And number three, even if we did not have the mortgage-based securities portfolio, we had other problems because the market itself was having a lot of commotion. So we had to handle the market-related stress in terms of higher spreads and all that. So all that we had to face, and we faced it fine. And I said I was applying the brake and the accelerator constantly. So
Mm.
somehow.
Very well. Very well, sir.
And then he said, fantastic. And one final point in that, then I came back to India. And after 2 years, I go back as chairman of Canara Bank to make an application on behalf of Canara Bank for opening a branch in the USA. And
Okay.
same gentleman, Mr. Walter Sullivan was there, as the head of supervision, tall man, 6.5 feet tall. Of course, he recognized me and they said, yeah. So, Mr. Raman, the procedure for obtention of a license in USA for a banking license is huge. It takes 10 years, 8 years, 9 years, most of the cases. In my case, in our case in Canada Bank, they said, we know you, Mr. Raman. You know what you did in Bank of India here. There is no waiting period. You can straight away make an application for license.
No.
We got a license in 2 years. And
That's
perhaps the fastest license any bank has got there.
on
So,
your own credibility. That's wonderful. Once again, your courage of conviction, clarity, showed for the Bank of India then, and later on for Canara Bank. And if only uh, people who mattered in Fed, they had been little more alert to what you were pointing out, maybe the world would not have faced the full wrath of the global downturn. Maybe some containing could have been done.
I would not like to place myself on a big pedestal on this, but the point of fact was Alan Greenspan was an outstanding Fed chief, 17 long years. Only one other person has had a longer duration as Fed chief. That was much, much earlier. And in these modern days, he was the final word on central banking as Greenspan. So that was what it was. But sometimes, you have conviction. And sometimes things that condition prove wrong.
Go wrong.
So
Sure.
otherwise, Greenspan was amazing man, very humble, and all these questions which you are putting, my goodness, say what a great question, and then very humbly, humility. He was a great man. So the short point is, well, I did what we could understand, and
Sure.
we were on driving all the time.
So, but wonderful listening to this. Your clarity and courage of conviction showed there clearly. So, the next one I want to go to is when you took charge as the CMD of Canara Bank. Now, I'm sure many of the friends from banking industry are also here, and in any case, this is going to be recorded and shared, so this will be of interest. The officers, managers in the banks, and I'm talking of your time, hopefully things are much better now, somehow uh, are not able to exercise their conviction, judgment with the force and energy that they could. I've also have some friends whom we talk informally, and one generally hears about it. And when you took charge as the CMD of Canara Bank, in what way you saw the possibilities to raise that confidence level of people who are working, and because leadership is something that is of interest to me. I wish it was a much longer duration. You were there for 2+ years, but during those time, where did you see the possibility and opportunity to create more enabling, empowering kind of an environment for your officers and managers?
Canara Bank is where my father worked as a stenographer. And
Right,
so I had huge affection. Canara Bank was part of my life from the age of 8 or 9.
right.
My father was an employee of a bank called Runatmal Bank Limited in Hyderabad, which got merged with Canara Bank in the early 60s. So right from then, Canara Bank has been part of our lives. So it is in that bank that I was joining you said. Canara Bank had provided bread to me, not only to me, to my father, and my entire family. So it was a
Yeah,
bank. It was a bank which was so much deeply a part of our lives.
so
Anyway, so it was a great day for me, and also many people for the staff. A staff member's son has become chairman. There's a huge amount of goodwill
sure,
because of that reason.
sure.
So when I took charge, I mean, you go anywhere, you try to make an assessment of what is happening and what is the position in that bank, and then what you can do. After all, our objective is I had a tenure of 2 years. What I could do in 2 years to improve matters and leave the bank a better place than what I had it. And
That's right.
what everyone tries to do. That was my intention, and that's what I tried to do. A few
Right.
things I found features of Canara Bank very prominent when I took charge. One was that Canara Bank was known for customer service, high-class customer service for decades. But then after the computerization took place and there was a serious environment, that is, all the banks were linked, somehow we had a very rough migration to the system. The system would not open days. And there are a lot of teething problems. So whenever I used to go, people used to say, "Sir, we have grown up in the bank by giving great customer service, but if the system doesn't open, what to do?" So there was total helpless. So I thought, okay, this is something which has to be fixed up. And I ran a campaign with the providers, with the system integrators and everyone. It took a long time. It was not an easy job, but in about 6 months' time, we could fix that. And so that was one thing. Number two was, we had a great branch network, about, 3,000, more than 3,500 branches all over India, very nicely located. But what is happening to Canara Bank, which was happening to all the public sector banks, was the branches were becoming ineffective.
Mm.
So, if branches are becoming ineffective, how to get business? So, business was more and more driven by head office, by controlling offices, regional offices, and how do head office and the controlling offices do? They have recourse to wholesale business. That is, in
Uh,
deposits, you raise CDs. So, okay, you raise deposits. In lending, you give corporate loans to thousands of crores or
right.
hundreds of crores. So, your balance sheet keeps growing, but on the surface it is. But inside, what was happening was it was a big getting hollowed out. So
Mm.
this was one, of course, it's not peculiar to Canara Bank per se, but it was happening to all across the public sector banks, and Canara Bank was no exception. And while chasing for wholesale business, banks were lending to state electricity boards, hardly any
Mm.
return. But then
Uh-huh.
it was something in which there will be no vigilance case against you because it's the state government undertaking.
That's
So,
right.
in fact, the tightest rates were given to the electricity boards because if I don't give, somebody else is going to give at a final rate. So that is a very paradoxical situation where the quality is not inherently per se good, but then the rates are the finest because there is
Mm.
no fear of accounting. That was one thing. And my objective was, in whatever time I'm going to spend, 2 years, we will reduce this dependence on the wholesale deposits and also the wholesale lendings. Make the
Mm.
branch really bank stronger. And number three, of course, there were a lot of vigilance cases, and the atmosphere in the bank was a bit sad in many ways. So one of my, and especially against the bright people who were always working in the credit areas, they were always facing the brunt of the vigilance inquiries. Because when you lend, some accounts are bound to go bad. And it is like this in public sector. If something goes good, well, fine, it is part of the package. When something goes bad, if out
Mm.
of 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 100 goes bad, then you are a criminal. So
Mm.
you must have done some fraud. You must have
Right.
colluded with the rascal.
Right. Mm.
And that is the type of approach which is followed, especially when the matters go to investigating authorities like CBI and all that, because they look at it from the point of view of crime. A crime means
Mm.
there are two parties. There is a colluder and there is an initiator. And
Mm.
for them, in the Prevention of Corruption Act and all that, there were some acts, enactments also, in which they had to say a public servant colluded with this rascal to bring losses to the public sector bank.
Mm.
So willy-nilly, somebody or other would get into the net, and then I tell you, it's a hell. So my objective was, well, to the extent possible, and many fellows are not able to get retirement after working for 30, 35 years, 40 years. Then when
Mm.
it comes to retirement, some account somewhere in his, some 10 years ago or 7 years ago would have gone bad. And the fellow will, there used to be one section 23 or something of the employee service regulations or disciplinary regulation something, and he will not be allowed to retire. He will not get pension when his
My
retirement
goodness.
benefits will be postponed. It was a criminal thing. It was so sad. It was. I did my best and got many people relieved. But despite all that, of course, some I could not. So this was
Mm.
number four. I thought we have to raise equity.
Equity.
Although
Mm.
nobody, it was not a fashion at that time. On the in that entire 1 year or 2 year period, Canara Bank was the only bank which raised equity. We raised equity for of 2,000 crores, which was that was the year 2011.
Mm.
So, man, compared to that, and nobody was raising equity, and we did. So that was, we strengthened the bank's balance sheet and all that. Number six was, I was telling you about speaking the truth. I never wanted to get wrong credit for anything which was not happening. And I really wanted our balance sheet to reflect the correct and true state of the bank.
That's right.
So, yeah. So there was, fortunately for me, as soon as I joined 2010 September, around October 2011, there was a circular issued by the government of India, which said that by next year, by September next year, we should have no human intervention with regard to classification of assets. It should be
Mm.
entirely system driven. So it was a huge challenge, but to me, it was a great opportunity to actually strengthen the bank. In fact, speaking the truth was natural to me, and I did
Mm.
not want to get in a wrong credit or anything at any point of time in my life. And I said, okay, this is good for the bank. I put my entire energies there, and then what happened was remarkable. And
Mm.
it's all detailed in the bank, in the book. But when I announced it in July 2011, that my balance sheet of June 30th of 2011, not one farthing was classified with human intervention.
I see.
No other bank, I don't think any other bank could claim that. I could claim as a matter of truth, sachai, no wishy-washy and no bluffing. Actual fact. And that was one of the greatest things which has given me great satisfaction. You know, I'll
Sure.
tell you a little story on that. When we were about to announce the results of June 11 quarter, many other banks had announced the results that day with higher profits, but then
Mhm.
share prices were going down. Canara Bank, because of all the cleaning up which is very in a gradual basis we did. Right from December we started, December, January, February, March, every month we actually increased, tightened the threshold, and we were able to actually do it. And when we were about to announce the result, I thought our share price would have a knock because there was a dip in profits, slight, not much, but there was a dip in profits. And to my surprise, the share price that day increased. And in fact, in Canara Bank, we would announce the results in Bangalore today, and next day we go to Bombay to make presentations to all the analysts and investors. And I had a lot of friends in the press community, and I was just asking one senior guy, "Why do you think our share price increased yesterday?" In fact, when I was going to the press conference, I had so much of anxiety in me. He said, "Raman, Mr. Raman, you have credibility. Market
Mm.
believes in you." And I tell you,
That's
my
wonderful.
biggest achievement in my banking career was that somebody was saying that market believed me, and market did believe me. And in fact, it's not only that. When under Mr. Raghuram Rajan, there was a AQR, asset quality review, and then that actually gave rise to huge NPA accretion all across
Mm.
the industry. In Canara Bank, it was much less. So for what we did, honestly, we did actually benefited.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
And so these are all the things, and in all the subjectives, we had a good sense of achievement. And
Sure.
very, very
Remarkable. In 2 years to be able to do all of this was quite remarkable. So I come to another chapter, and possibly in terms of impact, it's a chapter of your career that impacted much larger landscape, and that is your role as a whole-time member of SEBI, where you really took a stand, and people who thought this is an easy route to raise money, they had to eat a humble pie, despite all the tricks of the trade that they tried. So tell us, what is it that you discovered, and how did you deal with this kind of a guru? I'm sure these are very powerful people, a lot of money, who try and do this. Give us a little sense of how did you spot it, and then how did you deal with it?
I'll give you a little flavor of what is happening.
Hmm.
There are a huge number of what is called collective investment schemes.
Hmm.
Most of them fraudulent, which are
Hmm.
happening in India right from the 1990s.
Hmm.
There were a lot of plantation. You would also
Okay,
realize
okay.
this plantation,
Yes.
that plantation, etc. These were typical collective investment schemes in which they were all pooled funds, and then saying, okay, I will grow a forest and then you will have a teak tree. So
Hmm.
this sort of
Hmm.
things are coming.
Yes.
These are all 1990s.
Yes.
So when I joined SEBI in 2012, on December 28, 2012, the newspapers were full of Sahara, Rose Valley, etc., etc., etc.
Hmm.
Huge. And actually, the problem had got built in right from the 1990s,
Mm.
1990s, 2000s, and I go in 2012. So in about 20 years' time, what had happened was SEBI had issued ad hoc orders against some, stopping
Mm.
them from raising more money. And they went to some high courts and then got the stay lifted.
I see.
So when they got the stay lifted, one of those companies raised some 48,000 crores. 48,000 crores. This
Mm.
is, I'm talking of 20 years ago, one
Mm.
more. So there were multiple examples of that. And Sahara, of course, again, there's a big story.
Mm.
And huge amount of anger against the government, huge amount of anger against SEBI, against all the regulators, against the entire supervision as a concept. So that was the situation in which, of course, I land in SEBI and I am given that job. And of course, I am willing to take all these jobs, unglamorous jobs, difficult jobs. I said, okay, let me. And then, as soon as I joined, in about 10 days' time, there was a parliamentary committee. There was a standing committee of parliament, headed, chaired by Mr. Yashwant Sinha. There were some 30, 40 parliamentarians of 2030. Many of them so vociferous and fighting SEBI, fighting everybody. And then so much of unhappiness, etc., etc. And I took all the fighting. I entered the field today and again the fighting for what happened or not happened for 20 years. So that day I decided, well, this is not something which we will leave it, we will fix it. We came back and discussed the matter with our chairman. There were two things which I could locate as the essence of the problem. One problem was that our procedurally, we used to give a show cause notice first. If
Mhm.
somebody, we know it is a fraud and it is raising money by frauds, and actually a lot of investors are getting burned. So, how to put a stop? So, the earlier procedure was okay, we will first issue a show cause notice, listen to him, and then investigate, and then, okay, we will issue the order of restraint or whatever. And all this procedure will take some 4 or 5 a day, years, or even more. And in many cases, and then some court will step in, remove the restraint. And this way, SEBI was totally helpless. So I told our chairman, sir, this particular way of ending show cause notice first, and then only taking action, then this cannot work. This will cannot be stopped. This will go
Mm.
on and on and on, and we'll be only receiving requests. But there is a solution. The solution is there under Section 11B of the SEBI Act, it gives powers to SEBI to issue directions when things are very amply clear, when there is prima facie case that something seriously wrong is happening and investors are likely to be seriously hurt, then SEBI has got every right to preempt future raising of funds by issuing an order. That is 11B. There is one 11B of that. I said, sir, we have to have recourse to this 11B. So, when there were 2,000 cases pending in front of SEBI, and there was total lack of clarity within SEBI because there was so much of dispiritedness within SEBI because they were not able to be effective at all. And we were all butt of everyone's jokes. So I said, I told the chairman, sir, these 2,000 complaints are there. I will go across the city offices and ensure that actually that is also fixed so that people know where the dealing officers should be confident of handling it. Not enough that only in the head office we have confidence in knowing what is.
Right.
So, Chairman, it was a big debate because we were changing the procedure for the last 20 years. We were first showing the show cause notice. Here I'm saying,
Mm.
no, we should first issue the restraint notice.
Mhm.
So there was a dramatic 180 degrees turn, it was.
Yes.
So vigorous debate and KP, and finally the chairman said, yes, Mr. Raman, go ahead. Because, we had to put a stop to this. Otherwise, there is no end to this. So
Mm.
we started going, and then I went around the SEBI offices. I told them, I am not come here to fire you, admonish you. That I said, how many cases you have? 500. In some offices, Delhi and Calcutta, there are 500, 600, 700 cases. I said,
Mhm.
why are you keeping it pending? Why is it pending? So either there are two, three things you have to do. If it is under CIS, which comes under SEBI's purview, you have to take action. Otherwise, if it is something else, deposits raised by some companies which come under the MCA supervision, or something else, maybe in the RBI supervision. If the complaint is not pertaining to us, send away the complaint. And
Correct.
wherever the complaint pertains to us, handle it. So, and I said, okay. Then I told them, okay, bring your first. I said, there is lack of clarity, sir. We are not able to. We don't have confidence. I said, don't worry. Bring your five toughest cases. 10 toughest cases you bring now, straight away.
Mm, mm,
So some 10, 15 cases. Then I would tell them, okay, there are two cases, two sections in SEBI Act again, 11AA and 11BB. I will not go much into the technical thing. 11AA says, what is a CAS? There are some 5 characteristics. If all are met, then it is a CAS. In 11BB, it says, what is not a CIS? So
mm,
law was not very unclear.
mm,
Law was, in my opinion, pretty clear. Because 11AA defined what is a CIS, 11BB defined what is not a CIS.
mm,
So I said, okay, now I'm going to raise question on the basis of 11AA and 11BB. So what do you think? At the end of all these 10 questions, they were answering the questions. And then I asked them, is it CIS or not CIS? Yes,
mm,
it's CIS. So I said, you answered the question. I did not. You made the diagnosis. So now I have told you how to ask the questions and how to get the answer. You know the answer. And then we started issuing orders, sir. Within 2 years' time, I issued 300 orders.
How many orders?
300 on 3 years
$300.
alone. Yeah. And then every day there is a procedure in SEBI that when you issue an order, you put it on your website, immediately upload it. So
Okay.
the world knows if I issue an order today as a member, it is known to the world in 5 minutes. So every day some 4 or 5 orders, 10 orders have been issued. And the market was watching all this. And very soon, actually, everyone could realize that SEBI is in action. Something is happening. And all the rascals, the hunters were started being the hunted. So we hunted down. And within 2 years' time, there was hardly any case. And in fact, in 2016, there was a parliamentary committee, against same committee, standing committee. The BJP government had come. So the chairman was from Congress party, Mr. Veerappa Moily, was chairman. He made a remark, the last 2 years, SEBI has done a phenomenal job. They have control over the things. And ever since Mr. Raman has come, there is a sea change in what has happened. A very proud day for me. So the point is, any difficult thing is possible to fix. There has to be clarity. We have to understand what the problem is. Go to the root of the problem. Once you go to
Sure.
the root of the problem and also explain to the staff, it's fine. So, but my SEBI innings was not confined to this. This was only a small portion of what I did. I handled the entire gamut of SEBI, including corporate governance. In fact, I saw the corporate fight between, say, Vishal Sikka and the promoters of Infosys, for instance,
Okay.
or Tata versus Mistri, for instance.
Okay.
I oversaw all these mutual funds. And during my time, REITs regulations are formulated, AF regulations are formulated, municipal bond regulations are formulated. And all these are very important nowadays.
Sure.
REITs and AFs have become very, very important for the country now. So tremendous, and then I also issued a lot of quasi-judicial orders. As member, I'm also a judge or quasi.
Quasi-judicial
Yes, I have a
authority.
quasi-judicial function. And as a quasi-judicial authority, I would have issued another 200 besides the CAS and other things, and path-breaking orders. And because of which, because there were many of them are path-breaking, they all were contested right up to the Supreme Court. Not one case we lost. Everything Supreme Court upheld, whatever it said. And because of this, Mr. Jaitley, who was a lawyer himself and who also happened to be the finance minister, and also used to visit SEBI board meetings occasionally sometime. So he was conversant with my work. And for the work I did in SEBI, I started being more known as a SEBI guy, ex-regulator, rather than as a next maker. But it's a phenomenal experience. SEBI.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Remarkable impact. And once again, your clarity, originality, courage of conviction, they were there in ample measure for everyone to see. And a significant impact in the financial services industry, I must say. Um, so we are kind of close to the time now. But two quick questions I want to cover. One is these two unfortunate incidents of your life after your SEBI inning. Frankly, if I had a choice, one of them I would not have liked to discuss, but since your view is that everything adds to our learning and is this thing one should deal with it, and therefore one would like to discuss. Briefly, you can take us through you stood for your officers all your life, and under your shield, they could act a lot more confidently. But here it is, the same agencies kind of without any basis and all, they found you and kind of did some traps. So one is that CBI thing. You can briefly talk to the audience who is here, and then we go on to the next one.
Of course, this is a subject on which I can be talking for hours, but then
Naturally.
chapter called the Twin Tsunamis in the last chapter of the book, and people who have read it are greatly moved by that chapter,
Yes.
including great guys like Narayan Mukti and Deepak Parikh and Subbarao and many others.
Yes.
The sum and substance is this. I would, as you were suggesting, I would concentrate less on the twin tsunamis itself, but more on what I did to retain faith in myself
That's right.
and not being a cynic. So
Yes. Yes.
anyway, the sum and substance of the twin tsunamis was I was charged after retirement for something which happened in Canara Bank 6 years earlier, in which in a consortium account in which the borrowers had fled the country. We had only 7.5 share. Lead
Yeah.
Bank had 42%, the other two banks had 21 and 13, and we were 7.5. And diabolically, Canara Bank is charged. For what? And my crime was that I presided over an MCOM meeting to allow the renewal of an existing limit on existing terms. Same
Yes.
share. And this was an account with 20 years standing, or the group. This
Yes.
particular account was 5 or 6 years old, but it belonged to a group which had dealing with Canara Bank, satisfactory dealings for the last 20 years. And the entire consortium, there was not a single check return, not a single bill written and paid, not a single day's delay in meeting any. It was a dream conduct. And when in such an account, if you can't review a limit at an existing rate in a consortium account in which you are number 4 or 5 or 6,
That's right.
that is travesty. So it cannot be more nothing unfair. And they said it came in the papers that 2 chairmen of Canara Bank have been booked and nobody else is guilty. Only Canara Bank is guilty. 7.5%.
This is
42%,
amazing.
nothing. I mean, not that they did anything wrong. In fact, they also did not do anything wrong. But we were selected for all this special treatment. 7.5 is guilty, 42%. I mean, this goes to show the utmost unfairness of the entire thing. This happened.
Obviously, something else must have been at work.
Sorry?
Something else must have been at work. Then only this kind of things happen.
Diabolical, but actually the important point was I had access to RBA, I had access to corporate captains. Nobody believed that I could do anything wrong. So otherwise, if something happens, if something capers, you want to meet somebody, they will avoid you. Not one single person avoided me. In fact, I had a lot of offers from big companies to become a director with my background as chairman of Canara Bank and member of SEBI. So because of this controversy, of course, many of them hardly anything materialized. It was a great dhakka for me. A reputation built over 46 years in which I had done nothing wrong. Even mentally, I had not done anything wrong, let alone physically, in terms of money. So anyway, it happened for me. And I was also wondering why it was happening. This was June 18. It affected, of all the persons, my son very deeply. My son is a very sensitive guy and he was 34, 33. He was in the US and doing very well. In the pinnacle of his career, all promise of a wonderful future ahead of him with a lovely daughter, less than 3 years, 2 years. He came to India for a visit and then went back. And then, of course, I told him, your dad is the same great dad whom you considered a hero. He has not done anything wrong. Anyway, he had a health problem after going back, and then there was I could not go. In the SEBI's case, which I was mentioning, that CBI case, my liberties was deprived. There was a report notice, so I could not go.
Oh my God.
My son had a small little daughter, so he had no support system there. Otherwise, I could have gone and been with him during the surgery or whatever. That could not happen because of this direct result of this diabolical action of CBI. So I could not go. So he had to come. He said, I will come, Dad. And we had the surgery done here. Unfortunately, complications developed and the fellow died out of nowhere. This is within 9 months of that. So my reputation was under a cloud. And here my son, my only child at the age of 34, passes away suddenly, leaving a less than 30-year-old daughter-in-law and less than 3-year-old granddaughter. So this was a position. So in this position, this is a two tsunami. And then I started, my job as the head of the family was how to maintain belief, how to maintain my strength, how to maintain my composure, how not to get cynical and angry against the world. I had every right to be angry against everybody. So I said there's no point. And then, of course, one of the things which I remembered first was Arthur Ashe, a great man. Why me? People who are interested can Google and just type why me. It will take you to the story. He was a great man. That man said, he was a black tennis player who won the Wimbledon, first black man. So that man was a morally upright man, but he got AIDS at that time. AIDS was supposed to afflict people who were leading permissive lives. This
Yes.
man could not do anything wrong. And there was huge sympathy for this man. Arthur Ashe, how can he get AIDS? He cannot do anything wrong. And it so happened that he had a heart surgery, and during the surgery, AIDS infected blood was injected.
Oh my God.
This is how he got AIDS. And so there was a huge amount of outpouring of grief as also support for him. And then many people went to him as he was sinking towards his final death. People interviewed him and said, Arthur, did it not occur to you at any time the question, why me? Why it's happened to me? Why God has chosen me? To that, he gave a great reply saying, how many black players are there? And of all that, of course, I am the champion. During all this period, did I ask why me? So what right do I? Oh, there it is. Why me? That why me story, I just stayed with me. The first story which came to my mind on Hari passing away was, I never asked why me. So I said, okay, this is the time for us to show fortitude. So, and then how to show courage and then take care of the present. Hari was already in the past. My present was my daughter-in-law. My future was my granddaughter. So how to manage that? I will not go into details. I've written in great graphic detail in the book. But then the point was how to muster courage. The point is how not to be a cynic and how to be a powerful guy, how to be strong. And that is where actually Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita came picture. I started reading the Bhagavad Gita. I was in 2018, 19. 18 itself I had started, but I became a very serious student from 20 onwards. I started studying Bhagavad Gita, shloka by shloka. And people said, you read this commentary, that commentary. I said, I will not read anybody's commentary. I will do my own self-study. I am now 66, 67. At this point of time, if I only read others' commentary, when will I go into study myself? So I started going, and I tell you, it paid me great dividends for the reason that I found treasures which are hardly spoken about anywhere. There is one shloka of mine, favorite shloka, 10.37, in chapter 10, which is called Vibhuti Yoga. Arjuna asks Krishna, where all can I find you, Krishna, in the nature, in the world? Manifestations, can you please describe your man? And Krishna says, okay, I'm here, I'm in this tree, I'm in that river, I'm in that Himalayas, and I'm in somewhere. And to me, the greatest shloka in that part, he says, drops a big bomb, which really came as a bolt from the blue for me. He said, amongst Pandavas, I'm Arjuna. And look at the scenario. The scenario is a battlefield. Arjuna is totally forlorn, totally dispirited, no courage, and is completely gone, wreck. He has also thrown away his Gandiva. I don't want to fight. So to that person, in that situation, Krishna says, I am in you. And I tell you, when I read that first, I told myself, I am Arjuna. Krishna is not telling only Arjuna. Krishna is telling actually me, I am also an Arjuna. And in fact, everybody is an Arjuna in this world. It is only one Krishna, but all of us are Arjunas. It's nothing special about me. So, but I got enormous courage out of that. Even Krishna is there inside me. What is there for me to worry? So Krishna is there inside me, beside me, and that gave me enormous courage. And then after I finished transcription, yeah, I started writing scriptures with hands in original Sanskrit. This is just a sample of people who want to see. I don't know.
Mm.
See?
Sure, sure.
So this is the Narayaniam, which I wrote. I first wrote Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Then I wrote Srimad Valmiki Ramayana, 24,000 slokas. Then I wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam taught me detachment. Even from your own wife or your own child or your own grandchild, still they are different. So that detachment again gives you great strength. Otherwise, that was one factor which used to bring me to tears often, seeing my grandchild. Then I said, okay, no, she is an individual herself. She's going to fight a battle herself. And if I weep, it means I don't have confidence in her. And who am I not to have confidence in that great girl? So, from look at it from any point of view, I said there is nothing to grieve, nothing to feel weak. And am I the only father who has lost his son? Many fathers have lost. And is my daughter-in-law the only person who has lost her husband prematurely? No, many millions have. And is my granddaughter the only child who has lost a parent so prematurely? No. So to all these questions, the answer was no. There is nothing specific that God has chosen me for wrong treatment. So, and besides, Krishna is there inside me. And I had a heart surgery. During the surgery also, I believe Krishna is there inside. He is operating on behalf of the surgeon himself. I had a major operation, major operations within the last 2 years. And both times, my ideation was Krishna is there. And when our doctor asked me the same night, how are you, Mr. Raman? I had ventilator on me, so I could not speak. I said, asked for a piece of paper and a pen. I wrote Krishna and showed him here. I was aghast. That what Raman, fantastic faith you have. But that's the faith. So the faith actually gave me strength, and this is how actually this twin tsunamis, although it was a earth-shattering thing, not easy, of course, for anyone, but for me, the scriptures gave me a lot of support and help. And lately, very recently, I've written Ganeshwari in Marathi. So I'm good at Devanagari. I've written all these scriptures and have been hugely strengthened by it. I write 2 hours a day in Sanskrit or Marathi. So last 5 years, 6 years, this has been my hobby and preoccupation, which has gained me great strength. And actually, nothing can shake me. And actually, I write in my book, there is nothing like a tragedy in life. If you take the tragedy as a test administered by God, where is the tragedy? And I used to tell myself, I remember when Hari died and all this is happening around me, I used to tell this is a test. I'm being subject to test. It's not a tragedy. I'm being subject to test, and I will not fail this test.
Mm.
And
Amazing.
that's how
Amazing. Amazing, Mr. Sunder Raman. I think, you know, something about you stayed all through your life. From the early days of your father saying, "Welcome to my palace. We are no less than anybody." Mother saying, "Whatever you do it well, whatever job it is." And you seem to have really lived those lessons throughout your life. And those seem to have distinguished you in almost every role that you have taken. And you have taken so many different roles: bank counter, branch manager, regional, zonal, head of HR, US operations, India CMD, Canara Bank, regulator dealing with the whole country's stakeholders. But those basics of whatever you do it well, do it truthfully, be grateful, but never see yourself any less than anybody. I think all of those are things that have help you, excel in everything that you read. And finally, this last piece, anyone in your situation at this age of say, 64, 65, whatever the age was when all of these started, I think would have found very hard to cope. You not only coped, you took such an empowering view of dealing with these tsunamis, these unfortunate setbacks, that you have bounced back in your personal life, in your professional life. Even today, your advice is sought. You continue to, guide boards there, and I'm sure there'll be many more opportunities. So, if one looks at the way you have gone about your life, absolutely inspiring is the word as far as I'm concerned. And thank you so much for having agreed for this conversation. I hope I speak for everybody. I see some of them saying namaskaram, some of them saying grateful. And
Thank
I think this conversation has been, I hope, has been as inspiring to everyone who is watching here as it has been for me. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you so very much. And thank you to each one of you for so intently being part of this conversation. And uh, until we meet in the next session with yet another inspiring leader, thank you very much. You take care. With that, we bring this session to the end with one more thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of all of you to Mr. Sunder Raman. Thank you very much, sir.
And let me thank you at the end for having me. It has been a great conversation. And thanks to all the audience. Many of
Yeah.
my friends are here. So I enjoyed exchanging my experiences. All of us have our own individual types of experiences. Of course, what I narrated is not something great. It is something that what I went through in my life. So we all learn from one another, each other's experiences. And thanks very much for being the clearinghouse for sharing different experiences. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody.